sure it's going. Alright, it shows that we are live. So now we are going to go double check everything and make sure it's working before we get into this. YouTube.com. I see that we're live because I see it on our screen. But H2O Podcast is showing they're live because they have a blue dot beside them. I don't see where. Ah, there it is. H2O Podcast is live.
I'm going on Facebook.
Well, we're not live on Facebook. Oh, you're going on Facebook to make the posting?
Yeah.
All right, Steven, how do you say your name? Is it Shabbat?
Steven, you say it's Chabot. The T is silent.
Chabot, okay.
Yes,
With
sir,
the D
yes,
or no
sir.
D?
No D. It's CHABOT.
So C-H-A-B-O.
Do you pronounce the...
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just leave off the O and you're perfect.
Chabot. Got it. All right, guys, so we're here live. This is episode 3. We have our good friend that was chatting with us last week, or 2 weeks ago, Steven Chabot, on here. Tonight, we are going to talk about dosing. That is going to be our podcast for tonight. Kyle is away. He is not in town. He's actually in Washington, D.C. with his day job, doing a trade show up there, making some money, getting some rewards, and having a good time with the blackjack tables, I hear.
Which makes our background oh so very fitting.
Oh, it does. I didn't even think about that. There's just a few too many cards. This is a 5-card poker, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we all got 4 fingers.
Yeah, 4.
It's perfect.
Yeah,
I was counting fingers.
Bro, I had a blackjack earlier with 6 cards. I had 3 freaking aces on it.
That's awesome. That's rare.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, that's insane.
All right, so Steven, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've ever played blackjack.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. What got you in a hobby and things like that. Let's get this going.
So, I mean, I've been in the reefing side for probably about a year now. I started small, I say small. I started with the 50-gallon frag tank, and then it slowly went way bigger from there. But a little bit before that, I was mainly into freshwater. Angelfish mainly is what I really loved and enjoyed. Discus also. I started breeding angelfish also. Still running a little bit in the freshwater, but obviously once the saltwater side took over, I mainly went full saltwater.
Went fully into the saltwater.
Man.
Do you have any freshwater left at all?
Oh yeah. I have one freshwater tank, and that is the angelfish, and I do have a breeder tank for it because I do have a pair going still. I have a local fish store that likes to grab them every now and then. So that's mainly what I do with the angels.
If you were local, I'd buy them from you all the time because it seems to, every time I buy them from fish stores, they seem to die because they get transshipped from overseas and they do not handle it well when they come in the size of a quarter.
That's insane. No, I've had pretty good success so far between 2 different pairs that I got right now.
Heck yeah. What do you let them lay on? Do they lay on like Amazon swords or do you put them on slate rock or you got a flower pot in there?
So I do have the flower pot that I put in there for them. The breeding cones, breeding cones, flower pots. I put a few different things, whatever, because I want to give them all the option to be able to lay on anything they can. And then once they lay their eggs, they've gotten to the point where they're mature enough to hatch them, take care of them. And then once they actually turn into fry, I'll pull them out and put them in a separate little tank and then raise them from there.
You let them go all the way to fry?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When I was a kid, my dad bred angelfish, and we would let them go until the eggs, you saw them moving, and then we would take and we made sure they bred on either small pieces of lace rock or Amazon swords. We would actually take and cut the stem off the Amazon sword leaf and then pull it out and throw that into a fish fry basket into the same tank until the fry hatched, and then we'd move them out until pickle jars and stuff like that to let them grow out. But it was always fun.
Smart, yeah.
Did you ever see the angelfish breeding, Kyle, or was that before your time?
I remember vaguely, but no.
You must have been a toddler at that time.
Well.
Cool. So, how many saltwater tanks you got now?
So right now I have 4 set up, and then I'm working on a 5th one right now. I'm resealing a 75-gallon right now.
Gotcha. Do you reseal tanks often?
No, this is my first time trying it.
All right.
Uh-oh.
Don't cut between the seams of glass.
Nope.
Okay, so I've that's what I was told. I haven't done that yet. I've only cut the just that first layer on the outside, and I'm slowly cleaning that down to the glass, but I
Yep.
haven't gone any further yet.
So figure out where your seam is, and what you want
Yes,
to
sir.
do is you want to take your razor blade and go opposite of the seam completely against the glass. Scrape that hard.
Okay.
And then take your next one, put your finger on the side of the glass, and scrape that down. And then peel that little strip down. Because if you mess with that seam that's
Perfect.
in between the glasses, in between the two panes of glass, you will never get it sealed back right. Unless you have a way to
that's good to
suck
know.
out all the air out of the silicone. Because it's the same stuff, they
That's
just
really good to
vacuum
know.
seal it so it's really tight and there is no room for any type of air bubbles or anything to get in between. So
Nice.
the internal seal is really just a fillet seal. It's just a seal to make it look good. It is not required. But a lot of people who reseal tanks that were leaking like to really fill that seal pretty thick. So if it was leaking previously, I'd definitely recommend like a 1/4-inch bead inside there and then do a nice thick seam. Do not use tape either. Let it dry, use a razor blade and clean up those edges. If you use tape, you'll
It's
leave a nice
super easy
thick
to clean,
ripple.
bro.
Yeah, it's stupid easy. Stupid easy.
Good to
Don't
know.
overthink
Yeah, I
it.
was about to say I've seen videos with the tape, and I was like, that seems like a good idea, but just haven't gotten to that part yet.
It leaves a nice thick edge if you do that. So, I mean, you can do it.
I
Make sure you
gotcha.
peel it off when it's wet. You have to peel it when it's wet or it won't work. But if you peel it when it's too wet, you get nice long stringies that will end up over your entire... I keep going the wrong way. It'll end up over your tank onto the glass a lot thicker. So it'll look more messy if you don't do it the right way. So I don't ever use tape. I just do a nice 1/4-inch bead right into the center of that and then use my finger, lick it, and just go right up the side. And I do it pretty quick. I don't ever do it slow because you do it slow, you'll get squish lines. Do it fast and let it run.
Good to know. Thank you.
I do. I've sealed my fair share of tanks.
If you can't get it clean with your finger, you can always go to Home Depot and buy that cheap little like $2 seam sealer ripper thing.
Yep.
But
Good to know.
finger
That's really
usually
good to
works
know.
better than that.
Yeah, finger works the best. Are you getting aquarium silicone?
Yes, I already have some of those.
Okay.
I just my brother, he already went out and he bought things left and right on me, and I was just like, okay, I understand. We need to rush this process. I get it. Let's get it built. I know.
Yeah, definitely recommend the aquarium silicone. A lot of people try to use like GE1 and stuff like that, but GE1's changed so much lately. They've added mold inhibitors to it, so it kind of makes it a little bit more difficult. So
Yeah, I was told they don't have the GE1 that's mold free now.
So technically,
I haven't looked
still,
lately.
Technically, it doesn't have mold inhibitors in it still, but they've changed the formula. So now you have to let it go a lot longer. I think they tell you it's a week's cure time now for that product instead of the old 48 hours like it used to be.
Wild.
Move my mic because it
That's a
doesn't
long
look right.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. That works. All right,
My
so we
mic
ready to
stands
get in?
better than yours.
Mine's 3D print. Yes, yours is better than mine right now. He's using a Crown bottle to hold his mic.
Yes. Perfect. That's the best way to do it, man.
I
All
forgot.
right,
I
Go.
forgot to stand, and I was sitting at my hotel desk, and I'm like, all right, what can I use to prop this thing up? And it just clicked, and it fits perfectly.
All right, so are we ready to get this rolling?
Let's do it.
All right, let's get into dosing, guys. We're going to sit and watch this a little bit. If anybody's got questions or anybody's on here, pop on, say hi. I'm looking at the interview chat, not the other chat. That's why I'm not seeing anything. Oh, well. All right, if you guys got questions or you want to pop on, just hit us up in the interview chat, Steven, and then we'll go from there.
Yes, sir.
I ordered 6 Biota yellow.
Welcome to the H2O podcast, where two brothers, Kyle and Will, talk reef tanks, coral drama, random life stuff, and probably some stupid opinions along the way. You've officially been warned. Stay salty, stay opinionated. It's time for HT Whoop.
Welcome back to the H2O podcast, where two brothers, Kyle and Will, talk reef, do a little bit of BSing, and have some fun. You might notice the background's a little bit different this time. That's my fault. I'm actually on a trip in DC. I've been here for about a week, but the podcast is still coming to you guys. It does not matter if we're together or apart. We're here to have fun, and we're here to bullcrap.
Yep, I'm glad you said bull
live
crap on that one.
Live censoring here.
That was pretty good.
Episode 4, we're having a blast as we're doing this. Y'all are starting to get involved with us as we're talking. The live streams on release nights have been a lot of fun. I think tomorrow night we're going to be doing live.
I think we might have a guest.
Yeah, we're going to have a guest. That's going to be awesome.
Maybe.
And if you're ever interested in jumping in on one of these, please contact me, contact Will, or hit the page up. We'll have you in. We'll have some fun. That's all we're here for, honestly.
Yeah.
But tonight, right now, episode 4, tonight we're going to do a deep dive on dosing. What's your thoughts on that, Will?
This is one of the things that I'm a nerd about. I love dosing. Obviously, I own the chemical line Quantum, so dosing is kind of my thing. I think a lot of people always reach out to us and ask us what we should think about alkalinity, magnesium, calcium, nitrate, and phosphate. What should we do? How should we dose? What should we look for? When should we dose? All those different types of things. So tonight, that's what we're going to talk about. So let's just break down and get right on into it, because I know you're a little busy. You got a lot going on. What's your thoughts on dosing? I mean, is it something you regularly do? When do you start? Kind of what's your thoughts on it? Let's go through it.
I mean, realistically, you can break it back down to, like, if you've ever walked into a fish store, you see 50 to 500 different bottles of everything you can dose for, from iodine, potassium, alkalinity, magnesium, calcium, biogen, biometals, neonitro, neophospho, high-range nitrate, low-range nitrate. The list literally goes on.
Yeah.
How can we bring this in? Y'all can't see my hands. How can we bring this in from a big number to a small number? Make it make sense to you guys. That's the goal for tonight. For me, yeah, there we go.
Now we can see your hands.
To me, it all kind of really boils down to what you need, how you need it, and truly, genuinely figuring out what that need is.
Yeah, I agree with you. The biggest thing that we have from all the customers that reach out to me is they, like you said, walk into a store, see a million different things. When do you need to start dosing? That's the first big thing I think we should really talk about. Actually, you know what? Let's back up.
No.
What is dosing? What is dosing?
There you go.
I mean,
that's
dosing...
even further back than what I was going to say.
Oh, where were you going?
I was going to say why and when, but I think what is first.
Yeah, I mean, what is dosing is more important than anything right now. I mean, we see all these beautiful colors, beautiful corals that we have in the background of this image that we have here. They all got these bright colors. They're nice, big. They've got big skeleton growth in them. Those corals are eating every day. When they photosynthesize, they're using chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, plus all the aragonite structures in the tank, like calcium, alkalinity, magnesium. They're also using nitrate. They're also using phosphate to help make those skeletal structures that we all think is beautiful and what looks good in a tank. So our goal here with dosing is to replenish all those trace elements that are being consumed by those corals. If we don't replenish them, they get brittle and die. Think about osteoporosis in humans. When you get into those older ages and you quit drinking the milk that your mother told you to when you were younger, you start losing calcium in your body and you get osteoporosis. Osteoporosis is lack of calcium in the human body. It's the same thing with corals. If they don't have that calcium, they get very brittle. Ever worked in someone's tank and actually like flicked a coral or accidentally bumped it, it just breaks off and falls apart? That's lack of calcium in the tank. So what is dosing is the replenishing of all of those aragonite elements, macro and micro trace elements in your corals and your ecosystem and your entire environment inside that tank. Tonight we're going to focus on 5 of those elements. We're going to focus on the 3 aragonite elements, which is your alkalinity, calcium, magnesium. And then we're going to also touch on the nutrients, which is your phosphate and your nitrate. We're not going to go deep into what the actual recommendation is for nitrate and phosphate, because it varies on every single tank type and everything's different. And everybody's mind
opinion on that.
Everybody has a different opinion on that one. So we're going to go with the main 3, the main aragonite series. We'll brush on the brush on the nitrate and phosphates and go from there. So when do you actually need a dose, Kyle?
See, before we even transition to that,
Okay.
let's backtrack even more. We were talking about what dosing is, and we talked about add these additives. I want to touch, first off, we're getting to the win, but a lot of it varies from what you need and where you are in your tank cycle. Cycle is a loose term. Tank's life and ecosystem. Because water changes do replace a decent amount. So when you're doing these water changes and whatnot, if you're in a beginner's tank or lower level of corals, you usually can handle it with water changes.
Yeah.
However, when you want to ramp it up, that's when you get into it.
So I think water changes is part of dosing. Personally, I mean, I tell every single customer, it doesn't matter if you want a tank like you see in the background here, or if you want a full-blown, I mean, that is a full-blown tank, or if you want like a standard softy tank, which is just a few of the small mushrooms and zoanthans and things like that. Water changes is the place to start. You start with water changes. You do your weekly water changes, your bi-weekly water changes. Whatever your husbandry maintenance is, you stick to that. If it's going to be water changes every 2 weeks, then test your alkalinity and calcium and magnesium before you do a water change. Test it 48 hours after you do that water change. See what that number is and track it. The most important thing about dosing is keeping everything stable. And you can use some sort of guidebook or logbook to help keep those up, even an Excel spreadsheet, anything like that works. But you got to see where you're at and where you go to what gets consumed before that water change. That level needs to stay very close.
Logbooks. What's going on, Steven? So,
Yeah.
one, appreciate you being here, having a blast, just
Definitely.
bull crapping while it's playing. In this right now, we're talking logbooks. What do you use to log your tests? How do you handle that?
So I used to use, I can't remember which app I was using. Then they started charging, and from there I just went straight back down to my notepads in my phone. And every single day not every day, every other day pretty much, I'll just use my notepad, and it just seems to be most reliable for me.
Look at
The
my
app
Vanna
was
White.
nice,
She's so
don't get me
cute.
wrong. The app worked out good, but it just, I feel like the notepad was easier because, I mean, it was just what you put on it, and that's it. You didn't have all that extra crap that you're looking at.
That's fair.
Yeah. What is that?
Whoa.
That was different.
I built a Google Sheets account for the shop, so every tank automatically gets put into the Google Sheet, so I can access it anywhere. Like, I'm out of town for a week and a half, so I can keep up with all my employees as they're testing and keep an eye on my tanks in real time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's real helpful.
Using Google Sheets helps. Having an Excel spreadsheet, all that kind of stuff works. The guidebook or the logbook that we offer it does have everything. So it's got your phosphates, nitrates, salinity, pH, alkalinity, calcium, magnesium, boron, potassium, and metals or iron. So there is a lot on every single page, but it's for if you're doing the entire balling method, which is something we'll talk about a little bit later in this episode. But it really breaks it down into all those nine different elements that everybody really tries to pay attention to. There is some updates coming to some apps that are out there and some backends of some websites that are going to change to allow you to do kind of what you're talking about, Steve, and keep track of just what you want and only what you're after. So,
Interesting.
all right, back into it. Hopefully I could click the right one this time. Starts drifting too far away, that's when you start dosing. Otherwise, water change keeps it pretty level. Just keep doing water changes, and you don't need to add anything else because you're not consuming and using a lot.
So, in reference of water changes, what's your take on this? And I'll give you my opinion afterwards. Your salt. Do you use salt for your target levels, or do you shoot above? Where do you shoot for your target levels versus the salt you use?
So me personally, it depends on the type of tank. If I'm doing a soft coral tank, I will start with it a little bit higher. If I'm doing a soft coral with a few stony or LPS or SPS corals, it will be a little bit of an elevated salt. But if I have, again, a tank like we see in the background here with SPS, a fully stocked tank, I want that number to be exactly where I want my tank. So if I want my tank at 8.5, I'm going to kind of go find a salt that I like that is at that 8.5 alkalinity. or that 440 calcium or whatever it is. I want that number when I do a water change. There is no swing, because remember, this swing is the most important thing in this hobby. The more we can mitigate that swing, the healthier our corals are going to be.
I agree. I tend to on my lesser tanks, my more softies and my base LPS and whatnot. When I'm dosing less, I actually tend to shoot for higher salts. Like if I'm shooting for 8.5 alk, I'm using like a 10 alk salt to kind of supplement the week in between. It's dosing, basically. I'm just dosing a higher level of alkalinity that first day so that my corals have more to eat throughout the week to kind of supplement the fact that I'm not.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, it is swinging. So your higher end corals, your SPS, things like that, they hate it.
Yep. So we talked about keeping it stable. We talked about using the salt with a little bit higher to bring it down over the 2-week time or the week time, whatever that period is that you do, whatever your husbandry is. Keep the husbandry the same, by the way, because if you don't keep it the same, you can't figure out that dosing because it changes.
Consistency is key.
So what do we need to dose? When do you figure out you need to dose? How do you figure out by testing that you need to dose? That's something we didn't even really talk about. Do you test to figure out when you dose, or do you just guess?
Testing's the obvious answer in my book. And basically the answer to that question is when you start seeing your numbers dip. When your water changers are no longer keeping up with your consumption. So if you're testing before every water change and you're pretty consistently staying at throwing numbers 9 alkalinity, and then all of a sudden you start seeing that creep down 8.7, 8.5. Now it's time to start supplementing because your corals are starting to grow. They're starting to consume more.
Yep. So what do you test with? Are we using reagents? Are we taking it to a fish store? What's our recommendation? I mean, it's going to be, if you're first starting, take it to a fish store. Let them help you get you going with dosing, and then when it's time to really settle in and dial in that dosing, what's your recommendation? What do you do?
It really kind of depends on the knowledge level, in my opinion, because if you're knowledgeable, you can test every day. You should know how to handle your dosing. If you genuinely don't know what you're doing, no judgment, go to your local fish store, buy their product, buy what they're selling, do their tests, and let them take you step by step through your dosing period and learn. Once you get educated, that's when you can branch off. But when you're first starting out and trying to learn how to dose and what to dose, finding it, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be a fish store. Most of our hobbies, most of our communities have great forums, great Facebook pages. There's a lot of great people in this hobby that will take you under their wing and help you.
Yeah,
but
there's a lot of people.
Consistency is key. You talk to me, I'm going to tell you how to dose. Dose quantum and handle it through quantum space because I'm a quantum guy. You talk to my competitor in my town, they're going CChem or they're going all for reef. We start giving different information, that's when your tank fails.
Right. That's the biggest thing I will say right now with be stable when you get started and when you're trying to figure it out. I don't care what brand you do. I don't care if you're using BRS 2-part, pull chemicals in the way of calcium carbonate and soda ash or sodium bicarbonate. I don't care what you're doing. Just make sure you stick with one until you get that consumption rate figured out and get it dialed in. Once you get it dialed in, then we can go into, say we want a 2-part, say we want a single part, say we want an all for reef, or say we want a 4-part, or even a 24-part if you're going ICP testing. The base matters of getting that stability lined up and consistent. So let's talk about dosing kits. I mean, not dosing kits, test kits. So I have the Sarah Aqua Test box here. This is the kit that I use personally when I first start my tanks. The reason I use this one is it's got ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, alkalinity, calcium, magnesium in it. So it's got everything you need to do to... All right, Steven, we just talked about when to start dosing. So what made you debate that you needed to start dosing or when you needed to start dosing?
So, I mean, it was a little rough in the beginning to figure out when to start dosing. Started with an 11-gallon tank, and I mean, I say I started lightly with corals, and then I started taking off like crazy. And I was checking it every other day, every other 3 days almost. And then when I started to notice like, that little decline in the calcium and the magnesium from everything, that's when I was like, okay, now I got to start looking into what do I have to do from that point? And then that's when I realized, hey, you need to start dosing your tanks and take care of them that sort of way also.
Gotcha. Were you doing water changes to help keep up with those levels, or did you leave water
Yes.
changes out of the
So
equation?
no, I did. I did, and I still do weekly water changes.
Okay. Good. So you're one of the
So
weekly
that was my
guys. That's what
main source. Yes,
all of the
sir.
salt manufacturers recommend is the weekly, and the reason we recommend the weekly is because of the fact that it gives you a stable background of a place to start, and you know that you're getting those stable elements added in every single time you're ready for it. It really does make a difference when you get that stability and that extreme husbandry built into your system. The reason why we recommend it as salt manufacturers is it gives us a base for what your tank is going to be like and what you're after. It's kind of like if you've ever come up to an IT guy or called an IT guy and asked him for any help, the first thing he says to you is restart your computer. And the reason that is because he walks up and now he's got a complete base of what he needs to be doing and where he's going and what he's doing. So kind of the same thing with the
Yes,
salt.
sir.
That's why we recommend it. Also for inorganics that are in your tank. But the biggest thing for this conversation is the dosing consistency. It gives you a stable baseline to really base your tank off of. What's your thoughts, Kyle?
Definitely.
What were you using to test?
So I see that's funny. I started off with API and then realized really, really fast that that was not the right way to go. And then that's whenever I was looking around, and it was complicated in the beginning figuring out because everybody says use Hannah, use Salifer, and then use a mixture of both. Don't use this, don't use that. And then finally I realized, okay, we're going to do a mix of Hannah and Salifer.
That's what we both
I'm
use.
still an API guy for ammonia.
Now, I'll use API in the very, very beginning. Like if I'm starting up a new tank, I'll use it in the very beginning. But not long after that
follow
do
that
I switch
nitrogen
right
cycle.
over to using. Yes, sir.
Yep, that's kind of how we both are and how we've always been as a kid throughout our entire careers.
Yep.
So, all right, we're going to jump into testing now because that's where we're at. Let's go. Your tank. When this one gets to the point where my alkalinity and calcium are swinging and I'm trying to figure it out and get it dialed in for dosing, I put this kit away and then I go into the little Hannah eggs or Salifert kits, which I do have a Salifert kit behind me. It's Easter, man. We got to say eggs. Come on.
I'm with it. I've never thought about it, but I'll never unthink it.
Never unthink it. The cool thing about these is they are digital, so you can push the button and it will give you the readings of what... Oh, wrong way. Give you the readings and it will actually walk you through step by step. There's loads of different ways to do these. There's the master kit and everything like that. But the biggest thing goes back to that stability. I mean, we've got to get the tank stable in figuring out what our tank is doing. And that's where logbooks or those Excel sheets come in. So what you're going to do is you're going to test it on day one. Go for it.
And we've said it a few times in this episode. I'm going to say it 100 more times. Consistency is key.
Yeah.
There is a range, and I'm not going to use the right term, Will. You can correct me on this. There's a range every test has. Margin of error. That's the word.
Margin of error.
Every test is going to have a margin of error. I run into this at my fish store all the time. At my fish store, I use the API Aquaspin.
Yep.
Sometimes people will come in, hey, I'm testing my phosphates. It's reading 0.07. I test it, and it's reading 0.1. Well,
Yep.
I'm at the top of my range. I'm at the bottom of my range. You're at the top of your range. Vice versa. Like, the consistency of the test kit is what matters. Even if the test is complete, like, that's just what matters.
Yeah, so you hit a perfect point there. We had this with a customer a couple weeks ago. He was like, hey, my alkalinity is reading 6.2 at home, but here you're reading 7. And he's like, well, I just can't get those numbers up. I'm like, well, you have to quit going between this kit and this kit. You've got to use just one kit while you're trying to figure it out. And that's where I said earlier, I start with that Sarah kit or the API kit, and then once I'm trying to dial in, I go into the more specific, the more scientific kit that will actually let me get there. So with saying that, when I go to doing this, or I'm going to get set up, I'll use this type of, these logbooks, and I'll go in and I'll date it. I'll do my first test on, say, March 1st. We're just going to say random numbers here to make this work. So on March 1st, I'll do a test. I'll get my calcium level, my alkalinity level, my magnesium level. I'll write those down. I'll go a week later. I'll test it. If that alkalinity was 8.0 when I did it on March 1st, and then on March 7th, it was 7.8. I now know my consumption over a week was 0.2. So now, what do you do? What do you do once you figure out that consumption? Do you go read the back of a bottle and just pray that it tells you exactly what to do? I mean, what's the next step? This is where a lot of people get confused in this hobby.
This really falls down to every product out there. They're going to have some sort of calculator, a dosing calculator where you can follow. They're going to have their own recommendations, and they're going to follow what they push for. So most of the calculators, if you're sitting at 6.2 alkalinity, they're going to ask what you look for. They're going to say 8.5, or you're going to put in 8.5. I'm just saying numbers. And it's going to break it down towards how.
Pulling this one up to walk through it.
All right, so I'll slow it down. So your tank size is 75 gallons. Your alkalinity is sitting at 6.2, and you want it at 8.5. And this is a pretty standard calculator. This one's specifically for quantum. Its base is going to recommend quantum products and all that. Like I said, that's just what we use. Not saying it's what you have to use.
So this one's saying, this one's saying 65 milliliters to get it from that 6.2, but that 8.5. So let's change this back to what my numbers were with that 8.0 down to 7.5. So we're at 7.5, and we want to go to 8.0. And the reason I'm using these numbers, Kyle, I'm kind of going different than what you said, is because we did this over a week's time. So we did this test on March 1st, and we were at 8.0. On March 7th, we were at 7.5, based on our guidebooks, or our logbooks where we're keeping these numbers. Now we know we're over 7 days. This is telling us we need to add 14 milliliters to get it from 7.5 back to 8.0. So what we're going to do is that was 7-day window. We're going to take that 14 milliliters, divide it by 7. Because that's how many days we went. So now we're doing 2 milliliters a day. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that amount and we're going to split it up as much as possible. So this is where consistency really dials in and makes a big difference in this industry. Is you go based on these logbooks, keep those numbers the way you want them, right? And then you can use, I'm trying to get this to work right. And then you can use your elements. You can use your different dosing elements and whatnot that you have here, or even use your dosing pumps. That's the shot I was really trying to get, was the dosing pumps there. It took a second. But the goal here is we're adding 2 milliliters a day. So we can add 2 milliliters every time we do a water change. Oh, I missed the counter. We can do 2 milliliters every time we feed our tank, but we're doing it one-time shot. So that means at 8 o'clock at night, we're going to have a boost in alkalinity, and then it's going to come back down. We're going to have a boost the next day at 8 o'clock, and then it's going to come back down. Or we hook it up to a dosing pump, and now we set that dosing pump to take that 2 milliliters and split it up over all 24 hours. At that point, the corals have that consistent alkalinity 24/7 to feed off of, and it's never swinging.
And now this is really when the fun comes in.
All right, guys. So I want to talk a little bit about, with Steven here, about how he figured out his dosing, what he used, and kind of what he started with and where he went. So kind of walk us through it. I know you said you do the testing every 3 days.
Where did you go? Where did you come from?
Yeah, so so yeah, I do my testing about every 3 days now. Dosing now, I use a lot of quantum product. I mean, you got me hooked on it from Reef Jam, the first one that came around in South Carolina, and ever since then, trying out the quantum product, it's just expanded from there. So I use everything when it comes to the dosing, from the Easy Z to the Easy E, the nitrate removers, the magnesium. I mean, I literally got them all. I even use all of their salt too, even the salt too for it, because I figured if I could stick with one product.
You use the SPS salt from Fishy Business, don't you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yes, that's you. I was trying to figure out where I knew your name and where I kept hearing it from, but that's it, 100%. Got it.
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
Yes, sir. No, it's perfect. No, I figured if I could use one product and stay consistent with it, that's what I'd like to do. I feel more comfortable instead of being multiple different things.
Absolutely agree.
And then when it
It
comes to
makes
the
it a lot.
dosing side, oh no, go ahead.
No, I was saying, it just makes it a lot easier. So keep going with what you were saying.
Oh yeah. Yeah, when it comes to the dosing side, I mean, I use Quantum's app obviously for everything whenever it comes to figuring out. Because I mean, once I do my testing with the Hannah or the Salifert, I mean, take my calculations and I'll put that into the Quantum app, and it makes it so much easier whenever it comes to figuring out what I need to dose per tank. Because I mean, I range from 11 gallons to a big, now almost 75, if not bigger soon. So it gets a little complicated trying to do the calculations in your head.
It does. I know the bottles tell you what to do, but it makes. I mean, when it tells you 1 milliliter per 26 gallons, you don't know what that exact number is that you're after. So it kind of,
Correct.
the app makes it where you can really dial it in, no matter what type of tank you're using, what type of dosing method you're using with the Quantum products. Whether you're doing ICP testing with all the different elements down here, or you're doing the 2-part, or you're doing the 5-step balling method. So it really helps dial it in. I know all the other brands out there have an app or some sort of dosing calculations on their website. I've used quite a few of them before myself. I know, Kyle, you've used a few of them as well. But yeah, any questions on this, Steven, or anything like that? Or you want to get right back into it?
No, I mean, honestly, I'll just say straight up, it's so easy to use. I mean, you literally just give the information it needs, and it will give you what you need to do. It's pretty simple. I mean, it's really basic.
That was the goal of it. All right, back to the video.
What happens once you start dosing and your corals start getting the alkalinity that they want?
They're going to start growing. I mean, look at a football player. What's the biggest thing you do during spring break practice? Lunch, food. You guys go eat. You guys go to all-you-can-eat buffets all the time. And the point is, you guys need that protein so you can build your muscles. It's the same thing for corals. The more you feed them, the faster and faster and faster they're going to grow. And I'm not talking food here. I'm talking give them the actual, not nutrients, give them the actual elements that they need to grow and survive.
I was trying to get at, you'll notice consumption go up.
Yes.
Which is what he was saying. But once you see that, this is why, once you do those 2 weeks of testing and you figure out that number, that 2 mils a day that you're going to dose, that number is going to change.
Yes.
It always does.
Yes.
So that's where you need to continuously test to follow that trend. Because once you start going, your corals are going to go, oh, food! And then start eating it and consuming it. Then they're going to start growing, and then that number's going to freaking drop.
Yeah, and you got to take into account that every polyp that is created, even on an SPS, every single polyp that's created is a new organism that's trying to grow. Imagine having a baby, having another baby. Oh, even better, puppy. Having a puppy, having a dog, and then having 7 puppies, and then having 7 more, and then 7 more. Every time it's more and more and more and more you have to keep giving them. So what I tell people to do is get your base, figure out what your consumption is, run that consumption for 6 weeks. Test religiously every week for 6 weeks straight. Once it gets stable and you don't see much movement in that number and you see that it's pretty much stable, then you can back off to once a month testing. You really can do once a month testing and be okay. Now, let's go 6 months down the road once we've started to see our corals encrusting over our frag plugs and getting a little bit bigger. Then we do a test and we see, oh crap, we're no longer at 8.0, we're no longer at 7.9, we're back down to 7.2 or 7.0. Now we've got to readjust that dosing number. We're going to go back into our calculator again and change that. So we said we're at 8.0, now we change it to 7.2 because we're consuming it a lot faster because we got a lot more corals in there. Recalculate it, now it's 22 over 7 days. I'm not even going to try to do that math, it's 3 point something. But we'll change that dose from 2 milliliters. You're like, shut up, Will, that's right.
2.165, I believe.
I wasn't going to go that far. I know 21 is 3, so I know it's a little bit over 3. I would just go to 3 personally.
I was actually hoping you were wrong, but anyways, continue.
Go to that 3 milliliters a day, and then you'll start seeing it consuming even more because the consumption level's gone up. It's just because you've got more inhabitants consuming that element. All right, let's get on to something else. So by the way, hold on. It's the exact same for alkalinity, calcium, and magnesium. It is literally the exact same process for all three of those elements, even phosphate and nitrate, because all of these, what you're trying to do is get that stability. Remember, like Kyle said, stability is key. It is the most important thing.
I actually say consistency is key, but that's like the same thing. So
consistency is key. I like stability. Consistency is key. Stability is key. But the goal is to get all of those numbers as consistent and stable. And you don't want a heartbeat. You don't want a heartbeat. You want to flatline your tank. The flatter that line is in your tank, and the more consistent those numbers stay, the happier and healthier your tank will be. Also, it also prevents things like coral stress, coral damage, or anything like that, because they're stable. Imagine you moving all the time and whatnot, you wear out, you freak out, you start stressing, and you start getting rid of things. Same things happen with your corals. I just went way off topic. Go back.
You're good, but I want to continue following down the rabbit hole just a smidgen.
Okay.
So we've been talking about calcium, alkalinity, magnesium, all of that. Target numbers versus numbers you're shooting for versus numbers where they are. I know this one's kind of a weird one, because there's the right answer, the wrong answer, and my answer, which is typically the wrong answer but quicker.
Am I going first or you?
Well, let's put it first. The obvious answer is everything you read, all the forums are going to say calcium 440, magnesium 1400 or 1420, 1440. Alkalinity anywhere between 8 and 12. Nitrates and phosphates 10 to 0.1. That's the Redfield ratio. That's what everything you read is going to tell you to do.
Yep.
But
every tank is different.
Go ahead.
Every tank is different. I mean, they also tell me that my ideal weight's 175 pounds. At 175 pounds, I look like a freaking skeleton. So I like to be around 190, 195. I feel good. I'm healthy at that. So every tank is different.
12 years ago.
No, I'm still there.
Sorry.
Douche. So every tank is there. What I recommend people doing with this is start with where your salt's at. If your salt is at 10.5 alkalinity, 440 calcium, 1600 magnesium, keep it there. Keep your levels there, because your salt is your base. Start there, and then change it as you need. If you see that your tank's not liking the higher magnesium, slowly bring it down. But you need to change your salt, because if you do a water change with that salt again, you're just bumping it right back up. So
what are the signs of that?
Lots of different things. I mean, this is where I would say this is one of the biggest important things about local fish stores is your local fish store knows your tank better than you do. Because you come in and you talk to them. You talk to us about what's going on in your tank. We have the experience that you don't. And I keep saying we as in you and I, but every local fish store has this. They have the knowledge that you don't have. You're coming into them as an expert. It's kind of like you walking in saying, what's going on with my car? They hook up an OBD2 scanner and they tell you what's going on with your car. You walk into my fish store, I'm able to say, hey, I ask you 10, 15 questions, and then I can pinpoint you down a rabbit hole to get your tank fixed. Whether it's high magnesium, high phosphates, high nitrates, low numbers, I can talk with you through multiple things. This is where, I think it was episode 2, we talked about the Facebook people and the online myths and the online gurus and whatnot. They know what they know. They know they want their alkalinity at 8.5, their calcium at 420, their magnesium at 1325. They want it there because that's what they're doing. But that's not what's going to work best for your tank. Every tank is different, and this is where your local fish store knows it the best.
Perfect example, the display that we showed you in the last episode, calcium in that tank is 320. If I raise it to 325, corals start freaking out. Don't get me wrong, I love it, because dosing is way cheaper when you're dosing calcium to 320. But the minute I raise it, it freaks out. I've had polyp bail happen from trying to get my calcium to 400. So you learn over time, sure, you're going to lose some, you're going to win some. I've definitely lost on some torches trying to get that calcium up. But you learn, and this is where the experts of your local fish store really come into play.
And another thing I want to add to that is if you're following a regimen, say you're doing a Red Sea regimen, a CChem regimen, this little page flipping sound that you were talking about earlier is really annoying. I'm flipping pages trying to get to a page to show it, and it just keeps... Sorry. Pick a regimen and stay with it. What I mean by that is if you're on Red Sea or you're on the Quantum brand or whatever brand you're on, when you look at these guys, they say you want to be at X number. You want to be at 8.2. You want to be... I'm clicking on the wrong screen. You want to be at 9.0. You want to be at whatever that number is, but find what they're saying and stick to that. Start there because that's what they want you. Here's the page I was looking for. Like if you look at Quantums right here, they say ideal calcium is 420 to 440 for an LPS or soft coral tank. Mixed tank, it's 430, and SPS is 405 to 420. Alkalinity is 10.0, 8.8, 7.4. It just depends on the tank, but I would recommend sticking with whatever product line you're starting with. Again, we're talking starting. This is the beginnings lesson in dosing. We'll get a little bit more advanced here in a few minutes, but for beginners, start with whatever brand you're working with, whether it's salt, whether it's elements, no matter what it is,
answer
start.
Should be start with whatever your local fish store supplies.
Yes.
Because
yes.
you're going to have...
All right, Steven. It says start with your local fish store and what they're supplying. What do you use? What's your levels? Where do you try to stay at and why?
So what I use is Quantum SPS salt mainly for my frag tank. Now I kind of stick for a little bit higher levels on almost everything. I'm trying to bring down my nitrates and phosphates. So my nitrate levels are sitting, I want to say, at 37.4 right now. And my phosphate was sitting at 0.20. So I'm trying to get them a little bit lower. Yeah, they're a little high up there. Now my calcium usually sits around, I would say, 430 to 450. And my magnesium, I'm usually around, I would say about 1320 is usually where I'm sitting on my magnesium.
Why are you trying to
and then
your
now,
phosphates down when your nitrates are that high?
Well, I'm trying to bring them both down slowly. The nitrates took off on me one time. I was sitting there testing. We were sitting in nice low levels around 15, and then next thing I knew, it just kept shooting up. And then that's whenever I started checking my phosphates. They were raising slowly also. I thought it was from possibly feeding too much, so I slowed down a little bit on my feeding. But really, I just want to get them back down to about 15 nitrates, and then if I get my phosphates, at least I've been trying to at least get it under 0.1 just to make everything comfortable in the tank. It is a full mixed reef, so trying to keep happy levels for everybody in there is a little complicated.
Yep. Okay.
Consistency is key.
Consistency is key. There's
Yes,
your favorite
sir.
saying. All right,
Yes,
back
sir,
into
it
the
is.
video.
Questions. And I, as a fish store, I sell specifically Quantum. I am relatively knowledgeable in other products, but I'm not as knowledgeable in CChem and Alpha Reef as I am with Quantum.
Right.
So you come in asking questions about CChem, I'm going to give you the best answers I can, but ultimately I'm going to turn around and use the computer.
Yep.
So if you choose to dose whatever your local fish store that you trust supports, that's how you get your best support down the road.
And even better is if you walk in your local fish store and they don't know the answer and you're using their products. So like if someone walks into your store and they ask you a question about Quantum or they're having an issue, you're going to call the Quantum rep and get an answer and be able to say, hey, here's everything I walked through. We're at a level 20 here on questions and we cannot figure this out. Help me with something else. And your Quantum rep has done millions of tanks where you've done hundreds or even thousands.
Exactly.
So, and I've got a much vaster pool of resources than you do. Like I've got our chemist and everything who did all the R&D behind all this, where you don't. So sticking with your local fish store's products is probably the best place to start until you get your tank stable and working through it from there.
Because despite the contrary belief, we don't, as fish stores, we don't stock what you necessarily want to buy. We stock what we have used we stock what we believe to be the best. We're not just going to stock. I'm not going to use a brand because that would be bad right now.
Don't go the best. Go. We stock what we know
the best
works.
Yes, 100%.
What we know works. It might not be the best, but it works, and I can make your tank beautiful with it.
And I've used it personally, so I'm going to stock it. I've gone down the rabbit holes, so that's what I'm going to recommend to you, so that's what I'm going to try to sell to you. Not because it's the best profit margin or because that's what all the people on the streets are wanting. I'm using it based off my knowledge and my experience.
Yep. All right, so let's coin flip this. Since we're getting in on a little bit of time now, let's coin flip this pretty quickly. Let's go into ICP testing. Let's go into those macro and micro trace elements. Are they important?
Exactly where I was going to go next. Are they important? Short answer, yes.
But were they important 10 years ago?
Technically.
Did we know about them 10 years ago?
Bingo.
So, I mean, I've been reef keeping since 94, 95. We moved here in 92. Yeah, 94, 95. I didn't know anything about trace elements until about the last 8-10 years. We'll go 10-12 years. It's been about 12 years now that I've known.
We're talking like iodine, potassium, rhodium, nickel, iron.
We're talking all these little guys that come in on an ICP test, whether it's rubidium, strontium, molybdenum, boron. I mean, there's 25, 30 that we actually trace for or test for. I know I said 25, 30. I feel like
you were just I think you were just reading the cast of a Marvel movie.
No, I was trying to. I was debating on if I would look down and count them, but I'm pretty sure it's between 20 and 30.
I want to
trace
say,
elements.
But to be fair, I believe I could have this number wrong, but in trace elements in an ecosystem of a reef, there's 134 total trace elements.
I couldn't tell you.
I want to say that's the number. Could be wrong. Fact check me. But the humans and the computers that we have can only test up to a certain amount. I'm not.
Yeah, I think it's like 32 or 38 that we actually test with ICP MS. I know ICP OES testing is like 24 to 28 elements, but it comes down to how much work do you want to do in your tank. This goes back to the type of elements is the wrong word, type of products that you're dosing. Whether you're dosing CChem, whether you're dosing Quantum, whether you're dosing Alpha Reef, it really comes down to what you want to do. Every brand that's out there has gone through years and years of R&D testing and has been able to provide very beautiful, successful reef tanks with only doing the minor 14 trace elements, with only doing alkaline, calcium, magnesium, with a few little macro trace elements mixed into it. I mean, still to this day, with all the new science and new technologies that we have out there, the balling method is still the #1 recommended dosing system in the world. And to kind of break it down for you guys, the balling method is a 6-part or 7-part dosing system where you have calcium, alkalinity, magnesium, and 3 bottles. Those 3 bottles also contain some of your macro trace elements. Now, when we say it contains those trace elements, it contains those trace elements, but it's not enough to buffer them up to exactly those levels that we require through ICP testing. It's enough to give the aragonite structures the supplemental reinforcements that they need for your corals to actually consume those elements and utilize them through photosynthesis and skeletal growth. One of the things, I don't know if you guys saw a little bit earlier ago when I showed you those numbers, you had the brittle calcite and then the strong aragonite. The biggest difference between that is one's using just alkaline, calcium, and magnesium to create that structure. One's using the supporting macro trace elements to make that structure. So you get that supporting element makes it a nice solid piece versus it being open and brittle like this. So those elements are important, but they're not as important as a lot of people tend to push them to. I shouldn't say that. They are as important, but having them in those full levels and full numbers aren't as big of a deal.
So that's where a lot of like the 2 parts come into place.
Hold on, don't go 2-part. Okay. Don't go 2-part yet. There's 3 to 4 more bottles in the balling method that I want to touch to.
3 and held up 4.
I did 3 to 4 more bottles because depending on the brand,
Life is
some
hard
of them
when
have
you're
4. Shut up. Some of them have 4, some of them have 3. Those are going to be your minor trace elements. Those are going to be like your borons, your potassiums, and your irons. Those are going to be your halogens, your potassiums, and your metals. Those guys are going to be dosed in an amount where I'm giving you some, but I'm not giving you all. Because if I'm going to give you all, I need you to do ICP testing and see what that true number is. So the balling method gives you everything you need for support and chlorophyll and zooxanthellae color. So now let's go into 2-part, which is the next newest best way of getting your trace elements. But old school 2-part was just calcium and was just alkalinity. It's changed now.
So with your 2 parts, you usually are going to have your alkalinity by itself with trace elements. Then you're going to have magnesium and calcium together, coupled with also with its trace elements. What are you doing? You look like you're thinking that's not a good thing.
No, I was just turning the camera.
So you've got your 2 parts.
2-part.
Plus phosphate.
Yeah, because I'm dosing for phosphate right now because I got hair algae.
But you've got your 2-part, which is going to handle the majority of everything I'm going to use this term loosely, need.
Yes.
It's going to give you the buffer you need for your alkalinity, calcium, and magnesium, because those are the numbers you're actually shooting for with your 2-part. But with 2 parts in today's world, it's going to have those trace elements, the irons, the potassiums, the borons, the nickels, the metals, everything that your tank needs, but in a lower dose. It's basically allowing you to dose without having to ICP so that those levels don't get out of hand.
Right. And what a lot of companies did is, I say a lot of companies did, some of the newer companies that have remade their products, which there's quite a few of them now that are changing their formulas due to ICP testing. I mean, ICP testing didn't become available to a lot of the industry until about 10 years ago. So at that point, there was no way to see what was truly being consumed and utilized during coral growth. And now a lot of companies have actually done R&D testing with ICP testing with multiple tanks to see what trace elements are being consumed with calcium, which ones are being consumed with magnesium and whatnot. So it kind of allows us to go into the 35 different trace elements of what's being consumed and utilized during consumption. So those levels have been put in there based on what is being consumed with calcium. We're putting that number inside that bottle at the same time. So if a calcium L is being used, it's getting 14 milligrams, and I'm throwing weird numbers here. It's using 14 milligrams of potassium with that calcium to create that calcite structure. So we're replenishing 1 gram of calcium to 14 milliliters of potassium. And again, that's weird, stupid numbers. I'm just throwing crap out there. But that's kind of how they're doing it. It's in relation to. It's not a perfect science because every coral's different.
The reason the reason manufacturers do that is because the cost of doing ICP tests adds up quickly. The ease of testing these at home is not easy. I mean, sure, Red Sea has great tests for potassium, for iodine and whatnot, but it's not an easy test to do for beginners. It doesn't give you exact numbers because it's color shading. So following these numbers is not exactly easy. So they try to do it based on a relative consumption rate.
Right. So one more thing, and we're going to have to call this an end because we're getting close on time here. If you want to do ICP testing, don't think that we're telling you not to. Some of the most beautiful tanks I've ever seen in the world are completely ICP tested. I mean, you go look at Andrew Sandler's 17,000 gallon tank, which just had a catastrophe, but his tank is 100.
You mentioned it, so we got to stop. Our thoughts and prayers go out to you, Andrew.
Yes, thoughts and prayers to you.
Looks like your
100%.
team actually handled it incredibly well. I can't believe you're going through it. You have our support if there's anything you need. Please reach out, brother.
Please reach out. Let me know. We'll do what we can to help you. I ICP testing
Back on
is a
track.
thing. ICP testing is a thing. It is helpful. You can truly dial in some amazing colors and some amazing growth with ICP testing. However, it is not for the weak and the weary. It is a lot of work, a lot of money, and I'm saying a lot of money because it is. I mean, you've got 25 to 35 different individual dosing elements that you're adding into your tank daily. They call them the dailies. And if you want to learn about ICP testing, you can head over to reefmoonshiners.com. I will call them out because Andrew Mueller does a great job in education and educating the public on what the trace elements are and what's needed. All right, Steven, do you follow trace elements?
I tried to. So I've only done one ICP test so far in all my tanks. I want to do more to really get down to all the different elements and everything so I can understand my tank better.
Now, when you say you want to get into it more, are you going to truly dive into trying to adjust all those elements like the dailies and things like that? Or are you going to just test it to see maintainability and stability and consistency?
So mainly I want to test for stability.
Okay. So you're not going to be the guy who goes, oh, my iron's at 0.06, it needs to be at 0.1, and go adjusting it daily to make sure it stays the same.
No.
Well, what
I
if
would
you
rather
notice
be
that
more
your reds are
stable.
starting to fade out?
I still would rather prefer being stable. You know, it's all in the end. I want to be as stable as possible.
And
why
that's
is that? Because
I mean,
stability
stable is
is
key.
key.
Consistency is key. Come on, it's consistency, not stability.
It's
Just because you got me on this episode a little bit ago about it. So I do agree that trace elements, like I said here, trace elements do matter. You can have a significantly prettier tank by following those trace elements and making sure every trace element is out there. I do know there was a new brand that's coming out here soon that is hinting at some of the new products that he has coming out, and one of them was an all trace element. It's got all 14 macro and micro trace elements in one bottle, to include rubidium, which is one that we have been seeing lots of different papers and articles being written about the requirement of rubidium inside of your tank, to help with end-dock ratios and organics inside of your tank and whatnot. So it's a new product that's coming out. I have not personally done any testing on it because he's hinting on it, but it's supposed to help, kind of like what our Easy E and Easy Z does in relation to what you're consuming to help put those elements back in your tank. Of course, every tank is different, so having a one product does all is going to be very hard, and that's why Andrew Mueller over at Reef Moonshiners does such a good job, is he does have all 34 different trace elements in different individual single bottles set up for daily dosing, set up for weekly dosing and whatnot, to help get those tanks a lot prettier. Any questions on that, or kind of make pretty good sense?
That makes sense to me.
All right, we'll get back in this. I think we got about 5 or 10 more minutes left on this video, so we'll get going. You can also find companies that have apps, their dosing apps will allow you to put in whatever ICP testing you're using and use their own products with ICP testing. So you can go in and go into, like, say, our app, and you can go over to potassium and see that you're at 405 and you want to be at 415. Put those numbers in there. It will tell you which one of our exact products to use to bring that level up. Same thing with Seachem. Same thing with Tropic Marin. We all have that. Because we don't offer it, Tropic Marin doesn't offer it, Seachem doesn't offer it, but we still have the availability there for you.
It's also a terrifying thing to read because there's things in your tank you don't realize are in there. Like, I'm pretty sure, and you have an ICP right in front of you. Is uranium on that?
God, now you want me to try to show uranium. Yep.
Yeah, isn't that what they use to build bombs?
Yeah.
But it's in your tank, and it's actually
Nicadium?
at a required level.
Nicadium? NiCad?
That's wild.
That's what we
That
use to
is
make lithium
absolutely
batteries for Teslas.
Yeah, it's the stuff you don't realize you need. So, like, it can get very overwhelming very fast.
The best one, copper. I need copper in my reef tank. What the heck?
Fun fact, I just fact checked this. The Great Barrier Reef in the dead center of the reef itself has 3 to 4 parts per billion copper.
Yes, it is. It's actually extremely high. It's actually used for, I think it's chlorophyll C, for getting greens and yellows to grow in your corals. It's kind of interesting.
But isn't copper what kills inverts in corals?
Yep. It's what it's what we use to kill parasites, to kill inverts and bristleworms and things like that. So it's kind of really weird that we have that much copper in the ocean, and yet we tell everybody, do not use copper in your reef tank. By the way, this is a note, do not use copper in your reef tank unless you're testing for it. Because if you add coppermine or copper power or anything like that, you will destroy your tank, because those are not the same types of copper. Hint. So yes, it is weird that you have copper in your tank, and it's something that we actually do test for and dose when you start looking into ICP testing.
Right. I thought it was only
Sorry.
QT. Doesn't that kill inverts? Doesn't that kill corals?
Sorry. I figured that was a good one to end that one on. So,
But to sum all of this up, dosing is not required, but it makes life easier. I do want to touch on, like, real quick, I know we're coming close on time, the biggest dosing mistakes people do.
You took the words out of my mouth.
Of course I did, because I'm a freaking genius, and I think quicker than you.
Okay. So the biggest one is changing too many variables at once. I see people go, let's play with calcium. Let's do calcium, alkalinity, and magnesium all at once. No, guys, pick one, start with it. Now, what's that correct order? What is the correct order that you should start with? Me personally, I'm a big fan of getting my nutrient levels under control first. Because once I get my nitrates and my phosphates down, I can actually see what's being leached out from my rock, what's being leached out from my aragonite sand, what type of calcium levels and alkalinity levels are being leached out into my tank that are going to always be leached out. And then
those are going to be the first elements that you're going to notice when you're first getting into corals, first getting into your more sensitive fish.
Yes.
So those are like the most important from the rip.
Yes, those guys are very important. Start with those and then move into the alkalinity, calcium, and magnesium. Magnesium has got such a vast range. I mean, you can be from 1250 to 1500 and be safe. So you've got a huge range for that one. As long as you're there, you're good. Calcium doesn't get consumed a lot, but it does. So I would definitely go nitrate, phosphate, alkalinity, calcium, magnesium. That would be my personal order. What about you?
I'm right there with you. The only caveat that I'll add is, and this is from experience, I don't know anecdotally how much you'll see this in the forums and whatnot, but you're going to start growing coralline. If you're just starting a tank, coralline's going to come into factor. And once coralline starts growing, magnesium is the one that's going to bottom.
Yep, magnesium's
So
going to bottom out pretty quick.
If you're trying to convert your white rock, your brand new pristine rock, into coralline purple rock, you're going to have to dose magnesium. But the safe answer for that is there's a lot of products, Coral Up, Fowler Complete, Sweet Coraline,
Sweet Coraline.
which ultimately actually is a calcium magnesium blend. But there's a lot of products that you don't have to get into testing for. It's just going to tell you this is how you grow coralline algae. Follow the directions on the bottle. You're not going to dive into that type of dosing with that. So that's the only kind of variance I'm going to throw in there, is if you're shooting for coralline, your magnesium is going to take a pretty big dip at first.
Yeah, and another mistake that people are doing is the testing. If you're not testing consistently, you're failing. I mean, you are trying to grow a living organism. You have to test and see what's being consumed, see what's being utilized to be able to replenish it. If you don't replenish it, it's not going to work. It's kind of like getting a 1 gallon water jug for your dogs. You see how many days they last on that 1 gallon water jug, and then you refill it. It's the same thing for your corals.
And there's 2 steps to the consistency of testing: frequency and style. And by style, I mean brand. And by brand, I mean exact tester. Whether it's at home, whether it's your local fish store, it does not matter. The consistency comes in location and type of test and how often you do it.
Yeah, and time of day. If we're doing this,
that matters.
time of day matters 100% because consumption rates vary during photo periods. So if you're testing in the evening, you've gone through an entire photo period. If you're testing in the morning, if you're testing in the morning, you've gone through an entire resting state. So you're going to have a higher alkalinity, higher calcium, and higher phosphate levels during the morning times than you are at night. So make sure that time of day testing is the exact same.
I'm going to hit a pet peeve of mine real quick. You cannot get water from your tank in the morning, leave it in your car, go to work, go to the fish store afterwards, and get a test that's even remotely freaking accurate. Don't do it. You're wasting my time. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your money. Don't do it.
Yep. So dosing doesn't have to be complicated. It is truly a simple process. It is truly just sitting down, taking those test numbers, writing them down, seeing what the variance is, and adjusting your dosing for that variance. Whether it's manually dosing once a week, dosing it on a dosing pump, whatever you're doing, there's lots of different ways about dosing that makes it stupid simple. I mean, we're Americans. We like the KISS method. Keep it stupid simple. Don't make this overcomplicated. Everybody likes to overcomplicate everything in this industry, and it's truly not. Don't overthink it. Don't overdo it. Don't change too many things at once. That's the only thing I have to tell you guys. Do not change too many things at once. You will hate your life, and you will get out of this hobby really fast.
It can be as complicated as you make it. I mean, nowadays, a 2-part works beautifully. My display at the fish store runs entirely off a 2-part.
Yep.
Plus amino acids, which we didn't touch on, but that's a whole nother concept.
That's not this dosing conversation. That's totally different.
So that's foods. We might do an episode on foods later.
Well,
but
I think we're gonna do a second episode on dosing, maybe even next week. In 2 weeks, do a more of a deep dive on the different types of dosing, the different ways of dosing, because we both had all these ideas for this episode, but just doing what we did, we're already at almost 50 minutes. So I think we do need to continue into this next week and do a little bit more of a deep dive in how to dose alkalinity and some different types and stuff like that.
So that's done. Next episode, I want to get in this habit. Next episode is part 2 of dosing. So if you have any questions on dosing, or you have any fun stories on dosing, or you have any information on dosing,
gripes,
any
complaints,
fact checks
anything,
on us,
yeah, please bring it up to us.
Message us, comment it to us. If you want to jump on with us next time, that would be fantastic. We're still trying to get to enough followers on Facebook to go actual live. So y'all communicating with us on it, liking it, following us, subscribing, that all helps.
Yes.
Just get the word out even more.
Yes. And on that note, you guys stay salty.
Stay opinionated.
And that's where we're going to leave it. If you learned something, great. If you're mad about something, also great. Stay salty, stay opinionated. Follow us on Facebook at the H2O Podcast for more.
Wrong one.
Good job.
Where did we all go? What the heck happened?
Will had one job.
There we go.
Hey, there we all are.
I clicked
So
the same
that's a wrap
one.
on episode 4 of the H2O podcast, part 1 of dosing. Like we said, next episode will be a deeper dive into dosing. We're going to hit all of your different chemicals, all of your different whens, who's, what's, whens, where's, why's, all of that nonsense, including the drunken dosing.
Yes, we've got a story we want to tell you guys about a customer of ours who had a little bit of an issue in a very expensive reef tank, and it was all because he was drunk and he thought he saw a parasite. Little hint.
But I do want to shout out.
Oh, and it goes with copper as well.
I want to shout out Steven. Thanks for coming out and chilling with us tonight. I had a blast talking with you over the last hour.
Definitely. Thank you.
Yeah,
it was a great time. Thank you for having me.
No problem.
Hope
It was
you learned
definitely
a
a
thing
great
or
time.
two. Hope you had fun, and I hope you come back sometime soon.
Yeah.
Definitely. Would love to.
we'll get you on another episode in a couple weeks or so. Again, thank you guys. Thanks to everyone for coming out. If you guys have any questions on dosing, please pop into our Facebook group or our YouTube chat down below. Ask us any questions you want, anything that you'd like some clarification on that you saw today or would like to know anything about dosing, the different types of dosing or anything else. So you guys, on that note, you guys stay salty.
Stay opinionated.
There you go.